Alright, what is up YouTube? So today I'm going to be bringing you guys a updated tier list for the new ban list. This is the first day that it got revealed. I wanted to give you guys my early thoughts. I feel like this is necessary for any Yugi tuber. I feel like it's very fun to kind of just throw out what you think is the best deck of the format very early on and then kind of see how you predicted and how the format went out when it's the end of the format and then you're predicting for the ban list. So I feel like I'm obligated to kind of give my opinions right now, or any Yugi tuber, matter of fact, should be putting out their format predictions on what the best deck is. So let's get started with the first deck. The first deck I'm looking at right now is Virtual Worlds. I'm gonna say Virtual Worlds is the deck to beat. Virtual Worlds didn't get True King of all calamities banned. I didn't really expect it, to be honest. Like, yeah, I had like a slight feeling, maybe, with all the cries of everybody saying like this card is cancer, this card needs to be banned, stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, maybe next list. I think that is definitely going to be on the top of everybody's radar on the next list when the list comes in March. But Retro World's very strong deck. You can play through a lot of hand traps with a very good hand. It is a little bit fragile to some hand traps if you don't draw well, but all in all, True King of all calamities is a very powerful card. It especially with this deck, you can make two. So this deck is just very strong. It has a lot of utility through the spell and trap cards. It also has the extra deck monsters that are really good. You can make stuff like Zeus and stuff like that. So Virtual Worlds tier 1 deck, I expected that with True King of all calamities not being hit. The next deck I'm looking at right now is Dinosaurs. I think Dinosaurs is another tier 1 deck. It could be tier 2 because honestly, if Virtual Worlds is the best deck, then honestly, Dinosaurs, if they go second against this deck, they can't really break their boards because that's pretty much what Dinosaurs were good for. They were good at breaking boards, even with like, Buster, Whelp, and all that other stuff. We're in the Smoke Grenade as well. Like, Dinosaurs didn't care. They just ram through your negates and just like OTK'd you, or even then, like, put it up like Dolka plus, UTC. So, I think Dinosaurs is tier 1. I think they're still really good. They can still like play a lot of hand traps. They're still very consistent. They didn't get any hits. No hits on the ban list. It is absolutely crazy. So Dinosaurs I think are definitely tier 1. Moving on, let's look at some other stuff. Dragon Link, I think Dragon Link I'm gonna make a bold prediction and say Dragon Link is tier 2. I think Dragon Link it's very strong, obviously, but now that we can play Super Poly against it, now that we can play Dark Ruler no more, we can play all these going second cards, and we don't have to worry about our hand getting ripped or Dragon Buster. Like, Dragon Link is not that scary. I'm even tempted to put it in the tier 3 category because of how weak it is like right now because all these board breaking cards. You know what? I'm gonna put it in the tier 3. I'm gonna get clowned. I'm gonna get clowned. I know. But I think Dragon Link is like just a little bit weak. Like, what better boards can they make that just don't lose to Dark Ruler no more? I feel like there's not many. Like, maybe fit in like the Orcus package, but like I don't know about that. Okay, the next deck is Infernobles. I think I'm very tempted to put Infernobles in the tier 1 section, but they did get Link Cross banned, so that could kind of hurt. I don't know too much about Infernobles, but I'm gonna put them in the tier 3 category. I still feel like you have a Sold, you still have Connector, you still have all these, Warrior extenders, but the deck still loses to something like, as I said before, Dark Ruler No More, Super Poly. Like, all these cards are like now like really good because you don't have a Smoke Grenade to hit cards out of the hand, but you do have Connector, which only hits hand traps, which is, I mean, or like a good combo monster or whatever. But for the most part, I think Infernobles is definitely still a little bit strong. I think, I mean, obviously Link Cross and Smoke Grenade is like two big hits for the deck. I'm honestly tempted to put them in the Rogue tier, but I'm just not very sure about this deck. I don't know really much about the Infernoble combos. I'm not like an expert or something, so I'm tempted to put it in a rogue tier, but I'm so unsure of this deck. Like, it has a lot of good cards, obviously. I don't want to put it in like trash tier, but like I think tier 3 is like a safe spot to put for prediction. So let's look at the next deck. The next deck is PKs. I'm just gonna put all of these decks in the same spot. PKs and Adamantimators, they're both kind of the same. Like, they both like want to go first. make a board or go second, the break a board with stuff like the Adamant Dragite is like really good for breaking boards. You have stuff like the Berserker's Tenyi, and for the Phantom Knights, you have the Break Sword and obviously all of the stuff like Zeus and all that crazy stuff. So I think they're not as good as maybe they're a little bit better than Dragon Link and Infernobles. Like Infernobles might honestly be like rogue tier at this point, but I don't know. It's still super early. I still think these decks are rogue tier. Just because of the fact that Link Cross does hurt something like Adamantium and Phantom Knights, as much as they can put like a good board on the field, they still lose the like all these going second cards are just like you put up Dragoon, okay, super poly, just goodbye. Like you play like a whole bunch of darks, I just make the Predaplant card. So I think these are rogue tier still, honestly. I'm looking at the next deck. I think that Dogmatica Invoked might be tier one. I'm just gonna say it right now. I think Dogmatica Invoked is like honestly really strong right now. It can play a lot of hand traps. It has a whole bunch of one card combos. Like that's just like really good for a tier one deck where you could just play like this deck could probably play like 12 to 15 hand traps and still be honestly super consistent because you have three magical meltdown, you have three invoker, you have Nadir, you have Dogmatica Ecclesia. Like this deck has so many one card combos. It's honestly pretty scary to see that this deck I mean, like the deck didn't receive any hits because it's honestly not that big of an issue. But like the fact that this deck has so many one card combos, can play a lot of hand traps to stop like Virtual Woods and Dinosaurs. This deck is honestly very good. I think it's gonna be. I know a lot of people like to joke and meme and say like, "Oh, Invoked sucks. Invoke is like shit." But I feel like this deck, like with all of these other decks, like hit with like Dragon Link losing the Dragon Buster and Smoke Grenade and Link Cross, like and as well as Infernobles, I feel like these decks are just a lot weaker. Like they can't play through the hand traps that Invoke can play. Like they can play like a lot of hand traps, especially Virtual Woods as well. As I said before, Virtual Woods can't really play around hand traps too much. Dinosaurs is a little bit fragile to hand traps as well, just not like impermanence and effect veiler, but obviously stuff like Gamma, Ash Blossom, DD Crow, like these cards are still pretty strong against the deck. But yeah, like even Skullmeister is really good against something like Mist. So I think Invoke is going to be tier one. The next deck I'm looking at is Eldlich. I think Eldlich variants are definitely going to be tier two, as well as Zodiac. I think Zodiac is tier two as well. Is there anything else? I think there was one more deck I was looking at that is tier two. I think Prank Kids might honestly be tier two as well. Prank Kids, Zodiac, Eldritch, they all share like a common weakness. Like you know what the weakness is, but they're still very strong decks. You have Prank Kids that can play. They have Poly to play around the disruption on the normal summon. They have a lot of different one card combos that have every single Prank Kids ever. And then you have extenders like the Prank Kids Prank. You have as I said before, Poly, Pandemonium, like all these cards that fuse are really good to play around hand traps. So I think that Prank Kids is definitely going to be a tier 2 deck. I don't think it's going to be tier 1. I feel like it's a little bit too fragile sometimes. Not necessarily when they're going first, but like going second against a deck, like if you Twin Twisters their back row, they're kind of weak, but they still have like a lot of floatability. So that's really good. The same thing with Zodiacs. Like Zodiacs is really good. Like if you could slap a Zodiac, going to Dryden, pop, or going to Borbo attack directly, then going to Zeus is really good. But if they stop your normal summon and you don't have like a barrage or something like that, or you don't have the other engines that you're playing like Eldlich and all this other stuff, like Zodiacs can really struggle. Like they like pass their turn if you like disrupt the normal summon or disrupt the zoo monster that's on the field. So I think that it's still very strong because you have so many like one card combos into Zeus, so it's still pretty strong. And then Eldlich is the obligatory trap deck that's going to be good in the format. I think that Eldlich with Sanguine still at 3, I think that card should still be at 3, even with like all the predictions and stuff. But Eldlich still a pretty strong deck. It's a very powerful engine and a lot of different strategies. I think that the Eldlich is just very good for not only putting up disruptions, but also putting up a body on board for disruption. But there is some weaknesses to this deck. Like the pure strategy is very weak to disruption. they're not really strong at putting up negates, so you lose to stuff like evenly match as oh my god, evenly match is fucking back in the game, because we don't have like hand ripping stuff. So it's still a very powerful deck, but it does lose out to a lot of blow up cards, Lightning Storm, evenly match, Twin Twisters, like et cetera, you name it. Eldlich just loses to that, but it's still a very powerful deck. It doesn't just because we have like an answer to all of these, boards. It's not really necessarily saying these like decks are terrible. So, uh, is that it for all of the tier two and tier one decks? I feel like there's nothing else that's really standing out to me. Um, Buster Blader, maybe. I'll put Buster Blader in tier three. I think honestly, Buster Blader, even with the Destruction Sword ban, it doesn't really. They don't really care. Like Dragon Link is probably just gonna go into. You know what? Honestly, I think because of Dragon Buster being banned, the equip that you use with Union Carrier, I think they're gonna go to the Dragon Buster, the original Dragon Buster lock, and they're probably gonna play that. So I think that maybe tier. I'm gonna put this in tier two because I think that Dragon Link players are gonna move on to the regular Dragon Buster lock, and they're just gonna play Buster Bladers instead of the thing. And this card is honestly just very cancerous. I'm not surprised that it didn't get hit like Prologue and Buster Welt, but yeah, it's honestly gonna be another cancerous thing in the format other than VFD. But yeah, Mystic Mine is gonna be. I can't believe Mystic Mine kind of escaped the ban list, but at the same time, they kind of missed it last time. I think Guru. I don't want to be memes. I think Guru is like, it's noteworthy in tier three. I think they're as strong as Dragon Link and Infernobles. Um, this deck is honestly, it's like super consistent. You have, Hidden City and stuff like that. The deck is still honestly very strong. I know a lot of people like to predict like Guru and Alter guys are really good. I should probably put this up here. I think honestly, yeah, I think I'm gonna put them in the rogue tier. As much as I want to put these cards or these decks in the tier three category, I think that um Guru and Alter guys are just never really that good. Like they just never do that well, even though like they might be a little bit decent. Let's see what next. What is next in here? I know True Draco's got something, but like they're trash tier. Like no one cares about those cards. Uh, Mermail might be rogue tier. Honestly, I maybe. Solomon Greats, I want to put them in trash tier, but I don't know. They're probably rogue. I mean, you still have the transcode OTK, but like I'm just gonna put them in trash tier. I don't care about. I honestly don't care about Solomon Greats to put them in rogue tier. I think they're pretty bad. Mutants probably rogue tier. I still have Dimension Shifter, which is honestly really good. Besides that, the deck is looking pretty mediocre. But I mean the deck is still really decent if you can get off. I think the main problem with mutants is that you just sometimes you get blowed out by a lot of these, going second cards or like they can't really set up or they brick or something like that. You didn't get E-Tail either, so the deck is kind of honestly struggling. Burning Abyss is still like trash tier. I think Raid Raptors is trash tier. Monarch's still trash. Madolche's is like a decent rogue tier option. Like all of these rogue tier decks could possibly, boost up to tier three or tier two. Honestly, it's just like they're not really popular. Like there's only like a few handful of good players that play the deck. Like Madolche's, like there's only like dedicated Madolche players that are playing it. Mermels as well. Like Mermel players, there's just like a few that are really good, but besides that, like they're like no one's actually focusing on these decks. Adamantipated as well. Like all these decks in the rogue tier, there's not really any representation for these type of decks, and that is why they stick in the rogue tier instead of like tier three, tier two, and tier one. Um, ABC I think is still trash tier. I think Heroes is still trash tier. I think Shadal's is honestly tier three. Like I'm not gonna say like yeah, something like Invoked Shadalls are pretty good. I think yeah, Invoked is just honestly better. Invoked Dogmatica with the Shadal engine. Yeah, you still have Shadalls, which is like really good and powerful and stuff like that. Mystic Mine is still like I guess rogue tier because that card's cancer. Infernoid's still kind of trash. Cyber Dragon's still pretty trash. Thunder Dragon's still pretty trash. Is there anything else? Orcus didn't get hard unbanned. That card is still well, that deck is still bad. Dragon Maid's probably rogue tier. Generate's probably it's kind of trash, you know. Zombies trash tier. Infernity trash tier. DDD's trash tier. Loses the Dark Ruler. Mech Knights trash tier. Tri Brigades a flop. UA's a flop. Magical Musketeers loses to their normal summon. Blue Eyes still trash, and oh, Sky Striker that sucks too. Honestly, Sky Striker I put it in the rogue tier. I think honestly because we have the fact, because we have Mystic Mind. Mystic Mind is just so fucking cancer, and that card didn't get banned. I can't believe it. This deck is honestly gonna be kind of in the shadows. As I said before, like people are not gonna be focusing on Sky Strikers. Obviously, the really good Sky Striker players are gonna be doing good. But honestly, this deck is not. It's not worthy of tier three. And then Mathmex, I've been seeing some DB players playing this, but honestly, Mathmex fucking suck. So I've rambled on for long enough. This video is probably like fucking 20 minutes long. I think Virtual World is definitely the deck to beat. I think Dinosaurs is definitely the second best deck to beat. Then Invoked, and then all the other decks are definitely falling up after that. You might have a few like rogue contenders like Sky Strikers, as I said before. I think Adamant they just lose to so many fucking going second cards. Like a lot of these rogue tier decks that are combo decks, they honestly lose, and that's why a lot of these trash tier decks are here, like the Orcust and Thunder Dragons. Like they just lose to going second cards. They lose to like Super Poly plus evenly match or something like that. Like these going second is great again. Like it's so good until you face against VFD or you face against the Buster Lock Dragon Link garbage and stuff like that. So and it like you have Zeus to go second, you have the Eldlich. Like this format it's so much better than before. Obviously, we still have problems, but yeah. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. I've been rambling for too long, way too long, way too long. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. I'm out.